Hi, I'm Hovannes. Today we are going to study about the powerful technology which many newbies in backend development are not aware of, which is called CRUD. They are able to read from database, but they are not able to do the rest of the functions. So today we are going to cover all of them, so as you are able to use it in your development process. So CRUD stands here for this way, and here how it looks like. C stands for create, R stands for read, U stands for update, and D stands for delete. These are four main operations which you are able to do with your information from the database. First, C, create, means that you can add information to your database from the website. Read means that you can read and get that information and display to your front end from the database. Update means you can update the values. For example, the price of your product is 2000. We are able to update it and make it to 3000 or 100, and delete to fully delete a row from a column of your database. So today we are going to cover all of them. Let's get started by turning on our server. I will delete these lines. We no longer need these texts, and let's continue. First of all, I hope you have your server installed. For our case, I am using AMPPS, which is a nice and powerful server which gives us an option to create and install databases. It also gives us a chance to have access to our PHP MyAdmin, where we will create our database too. So I hope you have installed. It does not need to be right AMPPS. You can use also any other application as well, like example, and there are a ton others of them that you may find useful too. So I hope you have it installed. For right now, what we need to do, we need to create a local website. I created it already. It's called CRUD. You can see it right here, and let's access to it. To do this, we need follow this way. Let's copy the address. And let's put here CRUD, the name of our folder, and we see an empty directory. So to move forward, let's create already the first file in the website, which is done the following way. I'm using VS Code. You can use Sublime Text, PHP Storm if you are ready to pay for it, or any other editor as well. For me, I find PHP Storm very useful to me. I'm gonna create a PHP file and echo here something, so as you can see that we really have access to file. Let's do echo everything works. Let's close PHP tags and access our index.php. Nice, everything works correctly. So our next step is the creation of our database. For this, we need to go to our PHP MyAdmin and create tab new, and let's make a database name. I'm gonna make it CRUD as according to the theme on which we are working, but we also need to create tables. So we are gonna do it in the following names. Let's call the name CRUD table. And from here on, we are going to get access to these rows where we are going to give details of what our rows need to be. So let's start from the first, and usually first of all we always call it ID. This is an unique identifier which goes in almost every database. So because we need to differentiate uh, between our rows, and ID is perfect in doing that. We're gonna leave it integer. Integer is a whole number if you don't know it, and the length of values we are gonna put 11. It's a huge number. Let me show you. 11, like if I tap here 5 once, 4 once, it's still, we have 1111, but we still can go for 11 characters, which is a huge number. It's very hard to exceed that. We also add auto incrementation for this. What auto incrementation does, it simply adds with one more value. It starts from one, and every further uh, information we add, row we add, it's gonna get the next one, two, the third is going to be third, and so on. Let's create a title. As soon as my plan is to create with you products table, which we are able to do all the processes which we have discussed before, and we need to pull this varchar as a text, but simply it has some limitations. I'm gonna put this the maximum of 255 letters. The default is gonna be null for everyone uh, except ID. For everyone else, we are gonna have null values as default. We don't need other values to be there. And that's it. We made this. After title, we need to have the price of products. The price can be big int. Let me try to be, let's say if we have in this version, yes, it's here. It's big int, and the maximum length is gonna be again 11 values. The default will be null again, and the rest is okay. We don't need to add anything else. For the third, we again put it as a null, and we need description. And that's gonna be plain text, and we don't need to put any length here because the texts, the descriptions are usually being very long. And let's review our SQL. Nice. Here when you tap it, you can see how to write the code which generates all this. Let's save it and see, we already have a database. Let's try to browse here, and we can see that we still don't have any information here. Let's try to insert some information here. So for this, we go here as an ID. We are not gonna give any value. As a title, let's call it for example mobile phone. And for the rest, just some dummy information. Let's say it's cost $200, and let's say lorem ipsum as default text sending here, and that's it. We tap go and right, see how we see it. Yeah, we have our first mobile phone. Let's add another product as well. Again, we use insert tool. Our varchar of title is gonna be Samsung S10 Plus. For the price, it's gonna cost us $800, and as a description, I am gonna call it a nice phone. Let's better call it beautiful. A beautiful phone. Let's tap go, and again we see that we have, it gives us a code which will do it if we use it in our code. Let's try to use this option too. I'm gonna tap go. That's it. Again, let's browse. We see third because I tapped here. But let's write it with SQL Query. We already copied the code, as you remember. And if we tap here go, our code has added. It's again Samsung. I'm gonna have another phone in here. Let's change the values. I want the name will be S20 Plus, and the price is gonna be 1000, and I'm gonna call it an ugly phone. And let's tap go, and we already have 3 products standing in our database. Our next step is going to be already working on the code. For this, as you see, we have our index PHP. We no longer need this first line of code. We first need to make the connection to our database. And for this, I'm going to save it in a variable. I am going to call it con, and which is equal to MySQL query. MySQL query. And then we give the information about the database. So what MySQL basically means, this is the function which is defaultly in PHP. You don't need to create it, coming from PHP 7, which makes accessing database much more easier. Just to understand what is the function, you create the function in the following way. Function, you call it a name. For example, in our case, it's MySQL query. And between curly brackets, you write your code. But you can see here that you need to add also arguments as well. Argument 1, argument 2. There are 4 in our MySQL function. I will create 2 backs for what these arguments are doing. Sorry, I need to separate them by comma. What these arguments are doing, they basically give us access to use information inputted here inside your function. For example, I can echo here $, argument 1, and it's gonna work. And that's it. I will delete this function and start using the default number. Let's go to understand first what's our host address. For our case, if we go to our PHP myadmin, you can see it's server localhost. So the first argument will be localhost. The second argument are the username and password to your MySQL database. In our case, we are using AMPPS. If we go to official documentation, we will be able to see that we have default password and the username in our application already. So for the username, we are gonna use root, and the default password for it is MySQL. And let's, as the last resort, get the name of the database, because basically we got access to all this. We need to specify which database we need to access. In our case, it's CRUD. Let's call it CRUD. That's it. We already have saved the connection to the database in this variable. The rest, what we are gonna do is to check if it's working or no. And if no, just the code is gonna die. So what die function means, it means that if something is not correct, stop execution of any line of code. After that, in our case, we are putting exclamation mark, the name of our variable, and if it's not true, that's what exclamation mark does, we are gonna tap here die, and in a die write the error name. Error, something is wrong. Let's see what goes out inside our PHP file. It's here. Okay, we see we still have a problem on line 3. Let's check it out. Yes, the problem is that I need to use MySQL Connect. We use query for the functions, just to access something that already exists. Let's see again what's the problem here. Yeah, we need we made a mistake. I think that's it, and it will work now. Done. We don't get any error messages, which means everything is correct. Let's change the name of the username, and you will see how the error messages are popping up one more time. That's it. Error, something is wrong. That's it. Let's leave the root, and that's it. We are ready to go to start our first read function. Before we move on to passing PHP, let's type some HTML inside our VS Code. But also, I noticed that it won't be correct to have our connection and HTML inside the same file. It may be good for now, but when the projects go larger and larger, this becomes a problem and code becomes literally not maintainable. That's why what we do, we always separate the files by each one having some piece of code. I'm gonna create a file, connect.php, as you see on my left side, and I'm going to move all this part inside our connection. That's it. And let's just get this part. I'm gonna do require once. This is native PHP function, and I am gonna call connect.php. Let's refresh the page and see if we have any errors or no. Everything is correct. We got the file, and let me give you in a minute an explanation between require once, include, not include once. Let me write them down for you. First one is called require. Second one is require once. These are the four ways to include files inside your PHP and include once. Basically, what is the difference between them? Between choosing to use require or include, we use require when we need something, a code without which our application won't run. In our case, if we don't have this connection with database, our application will simply stop functioning. That's why we use require. If it would be a piece of code which won't be crucial for our application, we would use include instead. And when to choose just require or include, or require once or include once, it's when you require once the file, this basically means PHP checks was this file included or required before this line of code, and only then requires it. Basically, this means if your file is already required, it won't do it. But if instead we use require, it's gonna require all over again as much as we call the file. That's it. That's the only difference. Now let's close all this and write some HTML code where we will be able to get them and show and read the database results. That's it. We got all this area. I won't need meta tags for here. We won't do anything about adoption to mobile devices. I will just give it a title of CRUD and give some table for you. So for this inside our body, let's open the table. Inside table, we will use two table rows, and in first row we are going to have the heads of our table, and in the other the information which they are gonna display. Let's again remember we had four rows for four columns inside our database. Those were ID, title, description, and price. And let's add them right now. th, let's copy it 4 times. ID, title, description, and price. That's it for this row. Let's open the second row for us. Again, but this time use TD tags. For ID, let's use one here. For the title, yes, use Samsung. For the description, let's just say Lauren Ipsum custom text, and the price will be, let's say, $1,000. Let's see what we have inside our page. That's nice, but I see it's not beautiful enough for us. So let's add some styles to our HTML. Let's go to our HTML code, and inside head, let's write some styles. So let's come here, give us a style. I don't need with the capital casing. So for th and td, I will add some color. I believe that having silver color is good enough, and I will just add it to the background. Background silver. Let's see how it looks like inside live code. It's nice, but for th and td, I will add some other colors as well, just to make difference between the first lines and the second. So let's better do this in this way. Let's add some padding just to make the rows more beautiful. I believe 8 pixels are more than enough for us, and different colors for th and td. I am gonna use color pickle to see which colors will be the best working with each other. So let's open this. Let's pick this color. This one looks nice. And here I'm gonna add the background, and I'm gonna use the color. And for the next one, I'm gonna choose a bit different color. Let's say this one. That's it. Let's see the results. Nice, we can see the difference. And let's get information from database. Let's go to our VS Code, and on the top of all the functions, let's make a query. Query will be done in the following way. Let's get our products. Sql query, and inside the brackets, let's write our code. First, we already have our variable called con, and we don't need to write it all over again. They will pass it as the first argument, and the second argument will be our query. So it's pretty simple. We already have this suggestion inside our database. It shall give us already some insight how to call it. You can see here, select this sign means everything from CRUD table, and I'm gonna simply use it. So this is how I'm gonna just paste it into double quotes. If you put here single quotes, it's not gonna work. So just make sure to put always double quotes when doing SQL query. And let's echo our products and see what we get as a result. Going back to our page, and we get fatal error. It's not even an error, it's fatal error. It says that the object of class cannot be converted to string. Let's understand what's the reason. Basically, when we did a query, our product variable holds the value, but this value is not string, so we can't simply echo it out. To do it, to understand what basically product gave us, let's do var dump, and this function is gonna give us all the information about our products variable. So it's an object, and we can see number of rows, integer of 3. It means this is whole number of 3. And if we go to our database, we can see we have 3 of them. But now we have a question how to get this information into usage. First of all, let's make it an array of objects of what we have inside our database. For this, PHP has a nice function called MySQL fetch all. Let's write it down. Inside curly brackets, we give here the products. As soon as we need to save this into a variable, they don't want to have it saved into another variable because it simply does not have any reason. I am just gonna reassign the value of the products by using himself. That's it. And if we do var dump of products now, we will see a completely different result. Let's come here. Never forget to put semicolon. Let's go and refresh the page and see what we get. See, array of 3, our first array, it's gonna hold every array has another subarray, and here we see our first index 0 gets a string with all the information we have here. That's nice, which means that we can literally start to make information dynamic inside our HTML. So to do this, let's start by updating our information inside our table. Right now, we need to update information inside this tr tag and to put there everything dynamically. How we are gonna do it? Let's open PHP here and write some code. We are gonna use for each function of PHP to get information from the array. So we give the name of our array, which is the products, as product. So each of them will be a product. We are gonna open here the curly brackets, and we are not gonna close it down, but rather we are gonna close it down right after. And this way, our PHP is not gonna have any problems. Let's just put here the semicolon, and I believe we won't have any more errors inside our code. Let's see what's the problem. What's the reason of the error we are getting? It's unexpected closing tag. Where, let's see where we left it. Yeah, it's here. That's it. No more problems. And let's get the information. So as soon as the values are arrays, let's see what's the value of ID. I believe we left the var dump yet, and we can still see it. That's it. So our ID is our 0 index. So let's put it 0 and copy and paste these products because we are just gonna change the numbers. And we made the ID. So mobile phone, our 1 second part of the array is mobile phone. Let's see what it was. So mobile phone is the title. Let's put the title here. What's the next? Lorem ipsum is the description, which is our 3 and 2 and 3. That's it. Let's just put this here and see what we get. Updating the page. Okay, I forgot to put PHP here. Very childish mistake. If we don't put this, it's gonna execute this as standard HTML code, and we're not gonna have as dynamic results. And let's do it for the last line too. Updating. Why we don't get any information? Let's check it out. Yeah, we just need to echo it out, and it's gonna work completely fine for all of them. Let's refresh the page, and that's it. So we are done with the read part. Let's just remove this var dump, and we can put plus and completely tell that we finished with the read, and let's go on. So before passing to create function, let's make some folder distinguishment, so as we know where every part of code of us lays. Let this be our index main page, and put our create function into different file. First of all, let's make a config folder. So I believe it's not a folder. Let's tap on the folder. Inside our config, we are gonna put our connect.php. Let's move it there. It's done, and just update here the right path. Otherwise, our app is gonna be crashed. Let's test this out. Update. Nice, correct, everything works. Let's close this and create here another file, which is gonna be called create.php. In our create.php file, we are gonna create form, which is gonna have all the values which we need to put inside our database. Let's make our form here. Create a product. Let's give it a name, and let's get started by creating the form. Our form is gonna have three values. Let's call it price. Let's put them in divs. First of all, it's gonna be price. Let's make an input with placeholder of price, and with the name of price. Then let's make another input with the placeholder name and description. And the last input is gonna be about some submit. Type submit. This is gonna submit our form to the execution. That's it. And we can just change here the text's description. Let's put here price, description, and the name. DERC and the name. Let's see how it looks like for us to be in create.php. It's here, nice, everything is working. Let's give it a type of post. and action valve, the file which will be redirected to after the submission uh, will be our config and create submit.php. That's it. Let's create the file. But before doing so, let's type here. Let's fix here and make it action. By default, it's get, but usually when submitting a form, you shall never use get because it's very vulnerable to hackers attack. So that's why we are using post method here. After everything is done, let's try to submit a form like with some demi data and the name font. Let's submit it. Yes, we are here in our create.php because our file config create. Let's create the file, but before it, let's fix this method to post, otherwise it's gonna use the default get method, which is not good for us because it's gonna reveal all the information of the input. So let's put it inside our config. That's it, and add the file there. Let's create submit.php. That's it, and let's echo here what we get with our post beta print RB. It's gonna be an error if we do it. Let's use post semicolon in the end, and that's it. There came the moment to check what we have. It's description, lorem, and the name, of course. Let's submit it. Nice. So we have all this information. It just takes to put this inside database. To do this, let's start with the following steps. First, let's keep all the information inside variables. So let's start from beginning. The first we have is called price. So let's call it price is equal to post price. Let's copy this line, just not to write it down again. We have price description and name. So let's do one by one. DSC. Let's DSC. So remember that these are the key names which we gave in our form. You can see is the names, and these are how we get these names: price, DESC, and name. DESC and name. The next step, we are just gonna use a MySQL query. We no longer need to save this inside variable. We just need to make that query. And again, we need to get our connect.php because we can't access database without that. We do it before any line of code is executed, but it's in the same folder, so we don't need to go to config. So that's it. First parameter, again, we have our variable inside connect, which is $CON, and let's open it. $CON, and the second part is our actual query. This is how we are gonna get it. We don't even need to write it down by hand. Let's go here and use insert, and let's give it some values, some dummy values. We don't need to be very exact, and let's see how our query will look like. That's it. Insert into, and that's it. And we are gonna put this as a second parameter inside double quotes. So but instead of this what we got here, we just need to put our variable values. To do this, we get the price. For the price, we get it here. For the DRC, description is gonna be our third variable. Yes, and the first is the title. Let's fix this. Title. I called it name there. Let's update this value too. And let's try, but before trying it, I just want to make sure that we are being redirected to our main page. For this, I'm going to use location, and the location is gonna be one folder back because we are in our config file, and let's leave it like it is, and let's see how it's gonna work. Again, let me submit. It's coming good. Let me submit this time another phone, and I'm gonna submit it again. It works fine. So far is good. We don't have any problems. Let's go test it this one more time. To go create one PHP. Description is gonna be something, and this is just the name. That's it. It is here. So everything is fine. Let's pass to our update function. For this, I'm gonna create another file called, not in my config, but in my main directory, called update.php, which is gonna so do the job, but I can do it in another way. Let's first go to our index page, and on the last TD, add this a line of code which is gonna hold this value. It's gonna be a tag with href value to my file, which be in our case update.php. Let's close it and let's tap here update. Let's see how it looks like for us. Nice. But it's gonna go to the same page as for everyone else. For this, we need to push a get parameter. It's a very nice thing. Let me show you how it works. For example, in the same MySQL, you can see this question mark. Yes, after this question mark, the get method, we are transferring some pieces of information. In our case, we are gonna need to transfer the ID, which we are going to use later. So on the first part, if it's the first parameter that you are doing, you are gonna need this question mark ID, which is equal to our ID number, and it's gonna piece this information of code, this piece of code. Let's paste it here. If you want to add information, you add this end sign and add as many as parameters as you need. In our case, let's go to update PHP before we can move on there and echo out our get parameter. Better print our get parameter $sign get. That's it, and let's test this. I'm updating the page. Let's put update. Syntax error on update PHP on line 3. Let's see what's our error. Let's refresh. That's it. Yes, we get the ID. Nice. Okay, so everything that stays to do here to create some another form which is gonna update the values of our product. But before that, we need to make a query which gets the product, but exactly with the ID which is stored inside this get method. So let's start getting the information about the product. First of all, I am gonna save this value inside product ID variable, which I am creating right now. and this is gonna hold value of $get $_get and with the name of ID. That's nice. Let's echo this out. Let's echo just to make sure that everything works correctly, and then write our SQL query. Again, let's not forget the semicolon. That's it, number one. I tapped product number one. Now let's get the product. I'm gonna save it inside a product variable. Let's remember how we were doing the queries. So as we are able to move on, I'm gonna come here. We see select everything from database, but it won't be good for us because we need to get the product with very specific ID. So for this reason, let's try to do this where it's equal to 1. I have already written it, and let's go. Let's see, select where ID is equal to 1. Let's make this better. So how we are gonna do it, where ID is equal to 1. Let's try to make the query and see what we get. That's nice, we get just this. So this is basically everything we need. Let's copy this and make a query. Again, we are making MySQL query. Just opening. We need to import our Connect. So for this reason, I am gonna require the file. I already did this, so I'm not going to write the same code one more time. So there is our update. It's here. It's beautiful. Everything looks good. First variable will be $CON, which is inside our code in connect.php, and the second argument I'm gonna pass this SQL query, and the value is gonna be our product ID. Let's paste this here, putting semicolon. That's done, and let's see what we are getting. For dump $product. Let's go to our page and see what we get. It's an object. It's gain object. It's not gonna work. So this time we are gonna give another value to product using MySQL fetch sock as soon as we have just one associative array. Let's remove this word up and write SQL fetch a sock. That's it, and let's try to echo var dump the product variable now. Save this. We have parser on line 8. Let's see what's the reason. I believe it's again the semicolon. Let's see what we have. Nice. You can see that we have all the information that we need so far to move on with our code. Let's use another form. We already did have it inside our create.php, so I'm just gonna copy paste the values. I no longer need to var dump the product, or maybe I will use it later, so I will save it for now. And I'm gonna paste all this code here, and let's Now give the real placeholder values because we already have all the information from the product that we need. So here in the input of price, I'm gonna make the PHP and echo it out. That's it. And let's get the name of the associative array. So it's price. Yes, the name is price. Nice. Let's do it for the others too. So let's paste this here. The same for the name. So for the DERC, it should be DERC if I remember correctly, and for the name, it's name. Let's refresh the page and see how it's going on. It's 200 we got, but we did not get for two others. Let's see why. It's description, yes, it's description. And for the name, we call it title. That's why it's not correct. Just one more reminder for you. What we have, we need to get the values right from here. That's why they are called title and description. So these are the names that we are referring to. Let's save it one more time, see how it goes on. Nice, we get all the information that we need. We can now remove this var dump. The other thing which I'm gonna do with this file that stays for me, I will leave it submit, but we can make it a button. We type submit, so as we can give it another value. Button, type submit. Let's call it update product. That's it. Let's make this like this way, and I just want to make it a bit more beautiful. I'm gonna add br tags in all after our inputs, so as we can jump to the next line. That's it. And we can add also paddings, but it's not really crucial right now. Right now, what we need to do is to write a piece of code which is gonna update all these values. So we will no longer go to create submit. I will making the file here update product.php. Nice, yeah, but I created in a wrong folder. I move it here. Yes, update product is here, and we just need to give it the correct name. So in our action, let's name it update product. Product.php, and that's it. So after we make the submission, we are going to be redirected right there. Now we are heading over to our update product.php, and we are going to get the same post values. Let's just test it. So I'm gonna open the PHP and print r our $_post. That's it. Again, closing it, and let's make sure this must know it's $_post, and let's test what's going on in our update.php. Update product, it's price, description, and name, but it's empty. Let's see why it happens to be like that. Because we echoed out our placeholders. Yeah, so let's change something. it's 500, and give it a text, give it a name, update product. Yes, we are getting all the values. So basically what this all means, we need to set in our code telling that if it's empty, we keep it like that as it was before. So for this reason, let's go to our update product. But before that, I will copy this connection code. And in our update product, first, I will put it all here. So we have the connection, and let's keep the values. So for this, I am going to use these parameters: price, DERC, and name. So let's give it, we have written it somewhere here already, so I am just gonna copy and paste it from here. We don't need to do it one more time. But we also need ID in our case, because we need to tell in which product we are making the changes. Otherwise, it's not gonna work. For this reason, I'm gonna make a hidden input field. Let's make input and put the type hidden, and give it a value of, and give it the value of product ID. So what I'm gonna do here, I gonna copy all this, put it as a value, product, this variable, echo product ID, and this is gonna work fine. This is in our update.php. Let's test this. Update.php, it's not in config. Let's fix the path. It's correct. Let's see what our hidden input field, what value our hidden input field has. It's empty. Interesting. Okay, because we did not reach it out yet. So I will just call here ID. I will use the same product variable. Let's see how it works. And we shall be getting here the correct information. Yeah, the reason we are not having this is very simple. It's because we are not coming here from index.php. If we come from there, it's all the information is gonna be here. In our case, it's 2, and see everything. It's just working fine as it's supposed to be. So let's save this and give it a name too before saving. I'm gonna call it ID, and let's save this, and let's change the values, and update the, it's, we have error on line 3. It's okay, we will fix this. What's our error? Let's check this out. Let's require once stream no such file directory config update product.php update prod. Let's check this error out. Yeah, so we simply don't need to put here the config because they are in the same file. That's what is causing the error, and it should be working fine. But let's delete on the correct place. So we need to fix it here. Just connect.php, and it's gonna work fine. That's it. But let's get also ID $, ID, which is in our case we'll have this name. Let's check how we called it there. Yeah, it's ID. Everything is correct. Now let's echo this out just to see that, to be sure that everything is just working fine and we are good to go. Let's come here from this part and see why var_dump, our post variable, $sign post, and see how it looks like. It's gonna be update product on line 12. Let's just always put the semicolon and see how it looks like. Yes, and let's find here our ID. I added the ID just a few minutes ago, so it's not gonna work yet, but it's gonna be working now. Yes, and ID is also here, so everything is as it is supposed to be. Its ID is a string of 1. Let's close this and make our SQL query as we were doing before. Let's click here to be able to get the query. We don't touch ID, we just change the number. Let's change the text too and see how our query is gonna look like. You can see it's uses this update and gives us full information how to use the query. I'm gonna copy the query from the other file that's here, but let's just change what's inside here. We are closing MySQL and that's it. But we need to do it in a way where it checks for ID being unique, not just changing the ID too. So let's make the query a bit different. I'm gonna do it one more time from overall information area. Let's put here and review the SQL query. You see it says where the ID is equal to 1. So this is the right query where we need. So this way we are able to change exactly the product with the ID we are getting. So let's delete all this and put this all here. But we are just changing the values. So the title is gonna be the variable title. Notice that our PHP is working in substring without PHP text because this is SQL language. The price is gonna be here. And the description is gonna be here too. So let's paste this here and let's choose the product ID as well. We are gonna use the ID and we can test it out. But before finishing this, let's do header to our main page. Header, we are using again the same location and we are just going back with one path. Let's try this. Going to update.php. Let's make sure we clear the path. Going here, yes, var_dump is no longer here, so let's give it information. Let's start from index to get the right information. Let's edit this Nokia. We have a price of $1. Its old phone is, let's call it Lenovo. So it was description, and let's do like this, and we are gonna update product. We are here. Let's go and check it out. Going to browse. Nice, it's updated. So everything works fine. We have just one more thing to do, understanding how delete works. Deletion is fairly easy. Let's just go to our index PHP, copy the last time where we say update, and paste it above, but this time it's gonna be delete. And this is gonna move us to delete.php, and we are again gonna transfer the same product ID. Let's create that delete.php, but not inside config, but inside the main folder. So it's here. I'm gonna copy some code from update.php, and let's go on by trying to find the code. So I have here one product. We can create more. I tested. I found an error. That's why I made a test before coming this up to you. I am gonna go to my index and add a style, which is gonna be have just the red color red, and that's it. I think this is more reasonable. We have here delete PHP. Let's make sure we get the red color. Everything is correct. So after all this is ready, and let's apply the code. We are going to my MySQL. We can find all the queries that we need in here, so we don't actually need to search for you don't actually need to search for it if you don't know it. Let's copy this, and we are gonna use it. Yes, let's create MySQL query. Let's make sure we have it written. Let's copy all this instead of writing that, and I'm gonna paste it. Just remove this part and paste the last query with just different ID number. Let's make it like that. Don't need this part, and we are almost done. Product ID. Let's test it, but before testing, let me create some more products. Create.php. Price is gonna be this. This is and the name. We have the product. Let's try to delete. Let's see why. Yes, we forgot to make a header, and that's it. And we are going to be redirected to the main page. Let's try again. Let's try to delete ID 13 and see why our location is not working. So I just made a mistake saying LOCA, and let's try it again. Let's try to delete this product, the next, and deletion also works fine. So that's it about CRUD. We managed to study it all. So usually there is better and faster way to connect to database, which we are going to cover in other lesson. This is for you just to understand how this system works. In other video, I'm going to use PDO to make a secure and faster connection.